After months of begging for a divorce, I knew he'd never let me go, so I let him catch me instead. I left my phone unlocked, a single message open. Last night was unforgettable. I watched his face as he read it, his hands clenching the screen. Who is he? He growled. I smiled and whispered, the person who finally set me free. I don't know if I'm looking for validation or just a place to dump everything, but here it is. I spent years begging my husband for a divorce, and he refused every single time. He told me no like I was a child asking for candy before dinner. Like my own life wasn't mine to make decisions about. I knew he'd never let me go, so I stopped asking. And I found another way out. I made him want to throw me away. I let him catch me. It was the only way. Daniel wasn't always a bad husband. Or maybe he was, and I just didn't notice at first. He was the kind of man who could convince anyone that he was good, that he was right. People liked him. Respected him. He had a way of saying things with such certainty that you'd feel stupid for disagreeing. I fell for it too. In the beginning, I thought I had it all. He was charming, successful, and had a way of making me feel like the most special woman in the world. When we got married, I thought I was stepping into a perfect life. Then, little by little, he started changing the rules. It wasn't overnight. It never is. At first, it was small things. Harmless, almost. Suggestions. You don't need to spend money on coffee every morning. Let me buy a machine for home. You're so beautiful without makeup. Why waste time putting it on? You don't have to go out with your coworkers. I'll miss you too much. I thought it was sweet. Thought he cared. Thought I was lucky to have a husband who wanted to be so involved in my life. Then it became questions. Why were you gone so long at the store? Who's calling you this late? Why did you like that guy's post on Facebook? Then accusations. I know you're hiding something from me. You're so ungrateful for everything I do for you. You'd be nothing without me. And finally, rules. Money had to go into a joint account. I could spend what I needed, but he handled the rest. If I went out, he had to know where I was, how long I'd be there, who I was with. My phone was his to check whenever he wanted. He made sure I had nothing of my own. No financial independence, no personal space, no support system. At first, I fought back. I tried to stand my ground. But it was like fighting a storm with an umbrella. He always won. And when I stopped fighting, he acted like that meant he was right. Like I had finally come around to his way of thinking. Years passed like that. Until the night he grabbed me. It wasn't a slap, wasn't a punch. Just his hand around my wrist, tight, his eyes dark with something I'd never seen before. I yanked my arm away, and he let go immediately. Laughed like it was nothing. But I knew what I had seen. The next morning, my wrist was bruised. I covered it with makeup and said nothing. But I knew then. This was never going to end unless I made it end. I waited for the right moment. When I told him I wanted a divorce, he just smiled. That's cute, he said, like I was joking. I told him I was serious. His smile disappeared. You're not leaving me. I tried to push, tried to reason with him, but he shut it down. If you walk out that door, you leave with nothing. No money, no house, no car, no credit. Do you know how stupid that would be? I did. I knew exactly how stupid it would be. Because he had made sure of it. I had no access to anything. He had locked me out of our bank accounts. The house was in his name. The car was in his name. I had spent years thinking I was building a life with my husband, only to realize I had built a life where I depended on him for everything. And he liked it that way. That's when I stopped asking. If he wouldn't let me leave, I had to make him want me gone. So I let him catch me. I left my phone unlocked on the kitchen counter one night. A single text message open on the screen. Last night was unforgettable. Sent from a burner phone I had bought with cash and hidden in the bottom of my sock drawer. I sat at the table, pretending to scroll through my laptop as I watched him walk in, pick up my phone out of habit, and freeze. For a second, he didn't move. Just stared at the screen. Then he turned to me, gripping the phone so hard I thought he'd crack it in half. Who the hell is this? His voice was low, controlled, but I could see it. His face was turning red, his knuckles white. I looked up at him and smiled. The person who finally set me free. For a second, nothing happened. Then the rage hit. He slammed the phone down on the table so hard it bounced. You cheating whore. I didn't flinch. Just tilted my head. What did you expect, Daniel? You keep something in a cage long enough, it's going to try to escape. I could see it in his face, the battle between pride and control. If he forgave me, he'd look weak. If he let me stay, he'd never trust me again. And Daniel needed control more than he needed me. Get out. I almost laughed. Instead, I stood up, grabbed the duffel bag I had packed weeks ago, and walked past him without looking back. The moment I stepped outside, I felt air in my lungs for the first time in years. I didn't have a car. I didn't have money. But I had my freedom. And I'd figure out the rest. I wish I could say that was the last time I ever saw Daniel. That he let me go just like that. But men like him don't lose. And if they do, they make damn sure they take something down with them. The first week after I left was a blur. I was staying in a cheap motel, paying in cash, keeping my phone turned off. I knew him too well. Knew he'd try to track me, show up, drag me back like I was some runaway pet. I was careful. But not careful enough. Because one night, I walked into my motel room, and the second the door clicked shut behind me, my phone vibrated. The one I thought was off. It was an email. Subject, you're cute when you think you're smart. I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering. Opened it. Did you really think I wouldn't find you? Motel 6. Come on, Val. I gave you more credit than that. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. My chest felt tight. The walls of that tiny room suddenly too close. I had been so careful. How the hell did he know where I was? My heart was beating so loud I almost missed the knock at the door. Soft. Just once. I backed up, shaking my head. No, no, no. Another knock. Then a voice. Low. Amused. Valerie. Daniel. I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed my bag and climbed out of the tiny motel window, feet hitting the ground harder than I expected. I didn't stop. Didn't turn around. I just ran. I had nothing, no car, no plan, nowhere to go. But I wasn't going back. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs felt like they would give out. I didn't stop until I reached a gas station, the bright fluorescent lights making me feel a little less like I was about to be dragged into the dark and never seen again. I slumped against the wall, panting, shaking. My hands were trembling so bad I could barely unzip my bag. I grabbed my phone, turned it off completely this time, and stuffed it in my pocket. Daniel had always been smarter than me. More prepared. More careful. But I had one thing he didn't. Nothing to lose. So I pulled myself together, pushed off the wall, and walked into the gas station. I needed to find someone who hated my husband as much as I did. And I knew exactly where to start. I stood in the gas station, pretending to browse the snack aisle while my mind raced. I needed a plan. Somewhere to go. Someone who could help me. And then it hit me. Daniel's ex. Her name was Olivia. I had never met her, but I knew about her. She was his first wife, the one he never talked about. The one who, according to him, had been crazy and unstable and had ruined his life. I should have known then. But I had been too in love, too stupid to see the pattern. I pulled out the burner phone from my bag, turned it on, and did a quick search. Olivia wasn't hard to find. She had a small business, a bakery in a quiet part of town, just a few miles away. I had nothing else. No one else. So I went. The bakery was small, cozy, the kind of place where people lingered over coffee and pastries, completely unaware that a desperate woman had just walked in. I spotted her right away. Olivia was behind the counter, rolling up her sleeves, her dark hair tied back in a messy bun. She looked normal. Not like the unstable mess Daniel had described. I hesitated, but there was no turning back. I stepped up to the counter. Hi. Are you Olivia? She glanced up, eyes flicking over me. Yeah. What can I get you? I took a shaky breath. My throat felt tight. I was married to Daniel. Everything about her changed. Her body went still, her grip tightening on the coffee pot she was holding. For a second, I thought she might kick me out. But then she set the pot down, wiped her hands on her apron, and looked me in the eye. Come with me. We sat in the back of the bakery, at a small table near the kitchen. She slid a cup of coffee in front of me, then folded her arms, waiting. He found me, I blurted out. I ran, and he still found me. I don't know how. Olivia let out a slow breath. He did the same to me. My stomach twisted. How did you get away? Her lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. I didn't, she said, Not really. I made him think I was broken, and when he finally let me go, I disappeared. Changed my name. Started over. She shook her head. But I still watch my back every day. I gripped the cup, my hands clammy. He's not going to stop, is he? No. Her voice was firm. Not unless you stop him first. A shiver ran down my spine. How? She hesitated. Then, finally, she said, you have to make him afraid of you. I blinked. What? You think Daniel keeps control because he's stronger than you? Smarter? No. It's because he's never been scared of you. Olivia leaned in. But people like him? They have weak spots. You just have to find them. I left the bakery with more questions than answers. But one thing Olivia said stuck with me. Find his weak spot. For years, Daniel had made sure I had nothing. No money, no independence, no options. But he had something to lose. His reputation. His business. His perfect image. And I still had access to the one thing he never thought I'd use against him. The safe in his office. I didn't go back to the motel. I went home. Not my home. His home. The house I had lived in for years but never truly owned. The lights were off when I pulled up. No car in the driveway. Good. My hands shook as I used the spare key I knew he kept under the flower pot. The door opened silently, and I slipped inside. Everything was the same. Too clean, too perfect. Like a museum of a life I no longer belonged to. I moved quickly. I knew where the safe was, hidden behind a false panel in his office. He always thought he was clever, but I had spent years watching him. I knew his habits. His passwords. I found the safe and entered the code. It clicked open. Inside were stacks of documents, envelopes stuffed with cash, a flash drive. But my hands froze when I saw something else. A small, black notebook. I opened it. And my blood ran cold. Inside were notes. Names. Addresses. Dates. Details about people, his employees, his business partners, even me. Daniel had been keeping records. Evidence. Blackmail. I flipped through the pages, my pulse racing. And then I saw it. Olivia's name. Her bakery address. Notes about her. About me. About other women. He never let us go. Not really. I wasn't the first. And if I didn't do something, I wouldn't be the last. My fingers trembled as I held the black notebook in my hands. The pages felt heavy, like they were soaked in something poisonous. This was it. Proof that Daniel was more than just controlling, he was dangerous. And if I left with this, he'd never stop hunting me. I stuffed the notebook into my bag, grabbed the flash drive, and slammed the safe shut. My breath came fast and shallow as I listened for any sound in the house. Nothing. I was halfway to the door when headlights swept across the window. I froze. His car rolled into the driveway. I had two choices, hide or face him. I gritted my teeth. No more running. The front door opened. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Then, Valerie? I stepped out of the shadows. Daniel's face was unreadable. But I saw his eyes flick to my bag, the slightest twitch of his jaw. You were in my office. I lifted my chin. Yeah. I was. A slow exhale through his nose. And? I unzipped my bag just enough for him to see the notebook inside. His face darkened. You think you're smart, don't you? He stepped closer, his voice low. You don't even know what you're holding. Blackmail, I shot back. Evidence. Proof that you've been stalking me. Olivia. And who knows how many others. Something flickered in his eyes. Amusement? No, something worse. You think anyone's going to believe you? His voice was calm, almost pitying. You've been running around like a paranoid little mess for weeks. You're broke, you're desperate, and now you've broken into my house to steal from me. I swallowed hard. You don't get to scare me anymore. He smiled. That perfect, practiced Daniel's smile. I don't have to scare you, Val. Then he pulled out his phone, turned the screen toward me. It was a live call. 911. My stomach dropped. He had been ready for this. Hello? His voice was smooth, calm. Yes, I need to report a break-in. My ex-wife, she's mentally unstable, I lunged. Not at him, at the phone. My fingers scraped against it, but he yanked it back. I shoved him, hard. He stumbled, but I wasn't strong enough to take him down. He recovered fast, grabbed my wrist, pain shot up my arm. Let go. He squeezed harder. You don't want to do this, Val. But I did. I wasn't going to end up like Olivia. I wasn't going to spend my life running, hiding, looking over my shoulder. So I stopped fighting. Instead, I smiled. And then I whispered, check your email. His grip loosened. What? Go ahead. I nodded toward his phone. Check it. Suspicion flickered across his face, but he did. He swiped, opened his inbox. And then I saw it, the exact moment he realized what I had done. The color drained from his face. What the hell did you do? Everything in that notebook? It's not just yours anymore. My pulse pounded, but I kept my voice steady. I scanned it. Every page. Every note. Then I sent it to Olivia. To a lawyer. To the press. I stepped closer, forcing him to look at me. You don't own me anymore. His nostrils flared. His hands curled into fists. For a split second, I thought he'd hit me. But he didn't. Because for the first time, Daniel was the one trapped. The fallout was fast and brutal. The next morning, Olivia's bakery Instagram posted screenshots of Daniel's notes. She tagged his company, his business partners, even local news stations. Within hours, it spread. I watched it all unfold from a hotel room, my stomach in knots. People came forward. Women. Former employees. Even his own business partners, suddenly eager to distance themselves from him. By the end of the day, Daniel was trending. And not in a good way. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. Daniel's voice came through, flat. Cold. You think you won, Val? A humorless chuckle. You have no idea what you started. A pause. You're going to regret this. Click. I deleted the voicemail. Then I blocked the number. I wish I could say I felt safe. That I walked away without looking back. But the truth is, I still flinch when I see a car that looks like his. I still double-check locks. I still wake up some nights, heart pounding, convinced he's standing outside my window. But I also know this, he's finally afraid of me. And that's enough. For now.